The silent distress. The luminous dawn had been dying for 6 days. Commander Varix pressed her 3-fingered hand against the frosted viewport, watching the absolute darkness beyond. No stars. No nebulae. No light. The void reaches earned their name. This region of space existed between spiral arms, where even distant galaxies appeared as nothing more than faint smudges against an endless black canvas. Behind her, the bridge hummed with the labored breathing of failing systems. Life support wheezed through clogged filters. Emergency lighting cast everything in sickly amber. Of her crew of 43, only 27 remained alive. Commander, Science Officer Talnes called weakly from his station. The young Calith's skin had lost its natural violet luminescence, fading to dull gray. Oxygen reserves at 11%. We have perhaps 14 hours remaining. Varix said nothing. What was there to say? They had transmitted every distress protocol known to the Galactic Council. They had burned through their emergency quantum beacon reserves. They had even tried ancient radio waves, desperate signals flung into the uncaring void. Nothing answered. Nothing ever would. The attack had come without warning. One moment, the luminous dawn had been conducting routine surveys of quantum fluctuations in the void reaches. The next, their sensors had detected something impossible. Energy signatures matching precursor technology, the ancient civilization whose ruins dotted the galaxy but whose secrets remained frustratingly beyond modern understanding. Varix had immediately transmitted their findings to the Council Research Directorate. Standard procedure. She had expected congratulations, perhaps a promotion. Instead, they received silence. Then, 8 hours later, their communications array had exploded. Their propulsion systems had simultaneously failed. Their escape pods had been sabotaged from within. Someone on her crew had been a traitor. Someone had ensured they would die out here, their discovery lost forever. Why? She whispered to the darkness. Why kill us for knowledge? The viewport suddenly reflected movement behind her. Talnes had collapsed at his station. 2 other crew members rushed to help him, but they moved with the sluggish weakness of oxygen deprivation. Soon they would all simply fall asleep. A gentle death, relatively speaking. Varix closed her eyes. At least her daughter was safe on Calithera Prime. At least she would never know her mother had failed so completely. 15 light-years away, the human warship Horizon Breaker cut through normal space at 0.8 light speed, her quantum drives leaving a temporary scar in the fabric of reality. Captain Rowan Hale stood on the bridge, coffee in hand, reviewing patrol reports with the enthusiasm of someone doing taxes. The Outer Rim patrol routes were humanity's contribution to the Galactic Council's security network, a way for the newest member species to prove they could handle responsibility. Mostly, it meant 3 months of staring at empty space while checking that pirates weren't using the void regions as hideouts. Captain, Lieutenant Chen called from the sensor station. I'm picking up something odd. Quantum fluctuation on the edge of detection range. Hale set down her coffee. Odd how? It's rhythmic, repeating every 47 seconds. Chen's fingers danced across her holographic display. Could be a pulsar, but the signature's wrong. It's too structured. Put it on main display. The forward view screen shifted, overlaying sensor data onto the star field. A faint blue pulse appeared, barely visible against the background radiation of space. That's no natural phenomenon, Commander Marcus Okoye said, leaning forward in the first officer's chair. That's a distress beacon. Quantum-based, old Calith design if I'm reading it right. How old? Hale asked. At least 15 years outdated. Current Council vessels don't use this frequency anymore. Okoye pulled up technical specifications. Which means whoever's transmitting is either using a museum piece or they're running on emergency reserves, cycling through every frequency they can manage. Hale felt her pulse quicken. Chin, can you localize the source? Working on it, Captain. The signal's weak, degraded. Whoever's sending it doesn't have much power left. Chen's expression tightened. Got it? Bearing 273 Mark 6. Distance, 14.3 light-years. It's coming from inside the void reaches. The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew about the void reaches. Navigation hazard. No resources. No strategic value. Ships didn't go there unless they were lost, hiding, or desperate. How far off our patrol route would that take us? Hale asked. 48 hours round trip, Okoye said. Captain, we're supposed to complete this sweep and report back to Council Station Meridian in 36 hours. If we investigate, we'll be late. We'll have to explain ourselves. Hale looked at the pulsing blue dot on the screen. Every 47 seconds. Like a heartbeat. Like someone saying over and over, I'm still here. Please, I'm still here. Set course for the signal, she said. Maximum sustainable speed. Captain. I said set course, Commander. Hale's voice carried the weight of absolute decision. We can file reports later. Someone out there is dying right now. Maybe they're already dead. But if there's even a chance we can help, we don't get to ignore it just because it's inconvenient. Okoye held her gaze for a moment, then nodded slowly. Aye, Captain. Helm, you heard the order. Take us in. The horizon breaker pivoted, her main drives flaring brilliant blue as she accelerated toward the darkness. Varix wasn't sure when she had fallen asleep. One moment she had been watching the viewport, the next she was jerking awake to the sound of alarms. Not failure alarms. These were different. Commander. Townies was somehow back at his station, though he looked half dead. Sensors are detecting an approaching vessel. They're hailing us. Varix's heart seized. Were these their killers returning to finish the job? Or perhaps Council rescue had finally arrived? On screen, she managed. The main display flickered to life, showing a ship unlike any she had seen before. Angular where Council vessels were curved. Aggressive where Calith ships were elegant. Weapon ports bristled along its hull, but its approach vector was careful, non-threatening. A face appeared on screen. 2 eyes, unusual enough. No scales, no luminescence, just strange smooth skin in a warm brown tone. Hair on the head but nowhere else visible. The creature's face arranged itself into an expression Varix couldn't quite read. Unknown vessel, this is Captain Rowan Hale of the human warship Horizon Breaker. We received your distress signal. What is your status? Human. The word penetrated Varix's oxygen-starved brain. The newcomers. The species that had joined the Galactic Council only 7 years ago. The ones the older races whispered about with concern. Too aggressive, too curious, too reckless. This is Commander Varix of the Calith research vessel Luminous Dawn, she replied, her voice cracking. We were attacked. Sabotaged. Life support is failing. We have perhaps 12 hours of air remaining. The human captain's face transformed. Her eyes widened, her mouth tightened into a hard line. 12 hours. Understood. We'll be in docking range in 90 minutes. Commander, I need you to prepare your crew for emergency evacuation if necessary. Can your people survive in oxygen-rich atmosphere? Yes, but... Good. We're equipped for multi-species rescue. Commander Okoye, alert medical and engineering teams. Chin, scan that ship for structural integrity. I want to know if we can risk a hard dock or if we need to go EVA. Varix watched in amazement as the human crew exploded into coordinated action. There was no debate, no consultation with superiors, no checking of regulations. The moment they had understood the emergency, they had simply acted. Captain Hale, Varix said carefully, our distress signals have been broadcasting for 6 days. The Galactic Council has not responded. I believe our own government may have orchestrated this attack. You may be putting yourself in danger by... Commander Varix. The human woman's face filled the screen, and her eyes held something Varix had never seen from another species. Absolute certainty. I don't care who did this to you or why. I don't care about council politics or jurisdiction disputes. What I care about is that there are living beings aboard your ship who are going to die if someone doesn't help them. We're going to help them. We're going to help you. And anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me personally. Are we clear? Varix felt something break inside her chest. The hard shell of resignation that had formed over 6 days of waiting to die. Crystal clear, Captain. Good. Now let's get your people out of there. Horizon Breaker out. The screen went dark. Around the bridge, the remaining Luminous Dawn crew members stared at each other with expressions of stunned disbelief. Towney spoke first. Commander, did that really just happen? Are the humans actually coming for us? Varix looked at the viewport, where she could now see the Horizon Breaker approaching, her running lights blazing defiance against the void. Yes, she whispered. Yes, they are. For the first time in 6 days, Commander Varix allowed herself to hope. The docking procedure took 23 minutes of careful maneuvering. The Luminous Dawn was in worse shape than the external scans had suggested. Hull breaches sealed with emergency foam. Entire sections depressurized. Scorch marks around the communication arrays that suggested directed energy weapons. Someone really wanted these people silenced, Okoye muttered as they watched the feeds. Hale nodded grimly. Chin, make sure we're recording everything. Full sensor logs, visual documentation, the works. If this is what it looks like, we're going to need evidence. The airlock finally cycled green. Hale led the boarding party herself, accompanied by Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sarah Winters and Chief Engineer Lieutenant Kowalski. They wore full environmental suits, prepared for anything. What they found was worse than expected. The luminous dawn's corridors were freezing, the air thin and stale. Calith crew members lay in corridors too weak to move. Some had clearly died days ago. Others clung to life with desperate determination. Medical teams deploy now. Dr. Winters barked into her comm, "We need oxygen supplementation, thermal blankets and 4 nutrients. Move." Human medical personnel swarmed through the ship, their efficiency born from centuries of disaster response training. They had learned the hard way that in emergencies hesitation killed. Hale found Commander Varix on the bridge, still at her post despite barely being able to stand. The Calith woman looked up with eyes that held both gratitude and bone-deep exhaustion. "Captain Hale. You came. I said we would." Hale helped Varix sit down, pressing an oxygen mask into her hands. "Breathe. Your crew is being evacuated to the Horizon Breaker. We have medical facilities ready." "You don't understand," Varix said, her voice muffled by the mask. "They will come for us. Whoever did this, they cannot allow us to survive. We discovered something important. That's why they tried to kill us." "Then they're going to be disappointed," Hale said flatly. "What did you discover?" Varix reached into her uniform and withdrew a small data crystal. "Precursor technology. Active energy signatures. We found what might be a functioning installation in the void reaches. The Council has been searching for precursor tech for centuries, but they've never found anything operational. This could change everything: faster than light communication, new energy sources, technology beyond our understanding." She pressed the crystal into Hale's hand. "I transmitted our findings to the Council Research Directorate. 8 hours later, someone destroyed our ship. Captain, I believe there are forces within the Council who don't want this discovered. Who are afraid of what it might mean." Hale stared at the crystal. Behind her, Kowalski was assessing the damage to the ship's systems. "Captain, you need to see this. The sabotage was professional. Whoever did this knew exactly which systems to hit to disable the ship without destroying it completely. They wanted it to look like the crew just died slowly out here. Natural causes. Except someone left that distress beacon active," Okoye said over the comm. "Probably the same someone who sabotaged the ship. Insurance policy maybe? Or they had second thoughts." "The saboteur died 3 days ago," Varix said quietly. "Officer Rethnak. He confessed before the end. Said he had been paid by a Council operative, promised his family would be taken care of. He didn't know why, only that our discovery had to be buried. In the end he tried to fix what he had done, but the damage was too extensive. The beacon was all he could restore." Hale felt cold rage building in her chest. "They murdered 43 people to bury a scientific discovery. And they would have gotten away with it if you died out here in the dark. But we didn't," Varix said, and despite everything she managed a weak smile. "Because humans don't follow the rules. Because you came when no one else would. Medical teams report all survivors are stable." Dr. Winters' voice came through the comm. "Captain, we should evacuate you all now. This ship is on its last legs." "Agreed. Varix, can you walk?" "With help." Hale supported the Calith commander as they made their way to the airlock. Around them, human crew members were helping the last of the survivors aboard the Horizon Breaker. It was slow, careful work, making sure no one was left behind. As they crossed into the human ship, Varix paused. "Captain Hale. The Council will demand we hand over the research. They will say it's their jurisdiction, their authority. What will you do?" Hale looked down at the data crystal in her hand, then back at the Calith commander. "I'm going to make sure the truth comes out. All of it. And I'm going to make sure you and your crew survive to tell your story. Even if it means defying the Galactic Council? Especially then." Hale's smile was fierce. "Commander, my species spent 10,000 years fighting each other over scraps of dirt and differences of opinion. You know what we learned? The people who want to bury the truth are usually the ones who have the most to lose when it comes out. And we don't let bullies win. Not ever." Varix felt something shift in her understanding of these strange, aggressive newcomers. Perhaps the older races had been right to worry about humanity. But perhaps they had been worried about the wrong things. Perhaps what they should have feared was humanity's unshakable conviction that every life mattered, that truth had value, and that the powerful should not be allowed to crush the weak simply because they could. "Thank you," Varix whispered, "for not leaving us in the dark." "No one gets left behind," Hale said firmly. That's not how we do things. As the airlock sealed behind them, neither woman knew that 15 Council warships had just received orders to intercept the Horizon Breaker at all costs. The silence was about to end, and the galaxy would never be quite the same. Shadows and steel. The medical bay of the Horizon Breaker hummed with activity. 27 Kalith survivors lay on biobeds, their conditions stabilizing under Dr. Winters's capable care. Commander Verix, despite protests, had insisted on being present in the command center as soon as she could stand. Captain Hale studied the data crystal's contents on a secure terminal, her expression growing darker with each passing minute. "This is incredible," Lieutenant Chin whispered, looking over Hale's shoulder. "These energy readings suggest technology that could revolutionize quantum communication. Instantaneous data transfer across any distance. No light speed lag. Do you know what that would mean for a galaxy as spread out as ours?" "I know what it means," Hale said grimly. "It means the Council has been sitting on the possibility of this technology for who knows how long. It means they've been suppressing research that could unite the galaxy more closely than ever before." "Captain," Okoye interrupted. "We have a problem. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. 6 vessels just dropped out of slipspace. Configuration matches Council enforcement fleet." The bridge lighting shifted to combat red. Every crew member moved to their stations with practiced precision. "Time to intercept?" Hale asked, her voice calm. 12 minutes at their current speed. They're broadcasting priority codes. It's official Council business. Okoye pulled up the communication logs. "Captain, they're demanding we power down our weapons, prepare to be boarded, and surrender all Kalith personnel and data immediately." Verix stepped forward, her recovering strength visible in her straightened posture. "It's Arbiter Kelthinus. He commands the Council's Special Operations Division. If he's here personally, this goes higher than I thought." "Patch him through," Hale ordered. The main view screen activated, showing a Thalaxian, a species known for their 4 arms and coldly logical minds. Arbiter Kelthinus's face held no warmth, only bureaucratic certainty. "Captain Hale, you are in possession of classified Council materials and personnel involved in an unauthorized research incident. By authority of the Galactic Council Security Directive, you will immediately transfer all data and individuals to our custody." "Unauthorized research?" Hale's voice could have cut steel. "Arbiter, I have 27 survivors who were deliberately sabotaged and left to die. That's not an incident. That's mass murder. Your interpretation of events is noted. It does not change Council jurisdiction." Kelthinus's tone never wavered. "The research conducted by the Luminous Dawn touched upon sensitive matters of galactic security. The technology they discovered must be controlled, studied carefully. In the hands of unprepared species, precursor technology could destabilize the entire galactic order." "Unprepared species," Hale repeated slowly. "You mean species like mine? Species too young, too reckless to be trusted?" "Your species has been a Council member for 7 years, Captain. The protocols governing precursor technology discoveries have existed for 3,000. You will comply." Verix pushed forward. "Arbiter Kelthinus, these protocols exist to ensure all species benefit from discoveries, not to suppress them. We followed proper reporting procedures. Someone within the Council responded by trying to murder my entire crew. An investigation is underway," Kelthinus said, his tone suggesting the matter was closed. "Captain Hale, you have 5 minutes to comply. Failure to do so will result in your ship being disabled and boarded by force. The Council does not wish conflict with humanity, but neither will we allow you to interfere in matters beyond your understanding." The screen went dark. Hale stood silent for a long moment, then turned to her crew. Every eye was on her, waiting. "Opinions?" "We're outnumbered 6-1, Okoye said. "Their ships are heavier, better armed. In a straight fight we lose." "Chin. I've been analyzing their approach vectors. They're not taking combat spacing. They're using an intimidation formation. Looks impressive but leaves them vulnerable to asymmetric tactics." Chin pulled up a tactical display. "Captain, they don't actually want to fight us. This is supposed to be a show of force that makes us back down." "Kowalski, can we run?" The engineer shook his head. "Not with their interdiction fields active. They've got us locked down. We'd need to disable at least 3 of their ships to break free. Then we don't run." Hale's eyes hardened. "We do what humans do best. We get creative." "Chin, how many ships are within broadcast range?" "If we use the quantum relay network, we could reach about 40 systems including several major trade hubs." "Good. I want you to prepare a data packet. Everything we have, sensor logs of the luminous dawn's condition, Varex's testimony, the precursor research data, all of it. When I give the word, you broadcast it to every ship, station and colony you can reach. Okoye's eyes widened. Captain, that will make you a council enemy. They'll claim you violated security protocols, leaked classified information. They could have you arrested, maybe even expelled humanity from the council. Maybe, Hale agreed. But they can't do any of that if the truth is already out there for everyone to see. Secrets have power only when they're secret. Once everyone knows what the council tried to bury, they'll have to answer for it. Captain, Varric said urgently, if you do this, you're sacrificing everything for us. For my crew. Why would you take such a risk? Hale met the Caliph woman's eyes. Because someone has to. Because if we let the powerful get away with murder just because it's convenient, then what's the point of any of this? What's the point of civilization, of laws, of councils, if they only apply when it's easy? She turned back to her crew. I know what I'm asking. If anyone wants to object, now's the time. This isn't just about following orders anymore. This is about choosing what kind of people we want to be. Silence. Then Shin spoke up. Broadcast package ready, Captain. On your command. Weapons systems charging, the tactical officer reported. We may not win, but we'll make them remember us. Engineering standing by, Kowalski added. I've got a few tricks that might surprise them. Okoye stood from his chair. Captain Rowan Hale, I want it on record that I think this is one of the craziest plans I've ever been part of. I also want it on record that I wouldn't be anywhere else. Hale felt something swell in her chest. Pride, fear, determination all mixed together. Then let's show them what humanity stands for. Chin broadcast that package. All channels, maximum strength. Make sure it reaches everywhere. Broadcasting now. Across 40 star systems, communication networks suddenly lit up with an unprecedented data dump. News stations, government channels, private vessels, research institutions, all received the same information simultaneously. Within minutes, the story of the luminous dawn began spreading like wildfire through the galactic community. Arbiter Kelthanus is hailing us, Okoye reported. He sounds angry. I bet he does. Put him through. Kelthanus's face was no longer calm. Captain Hale, you have just committed an act of treason against the Galactic Council. You have violated security protocols, leaked classified information, and endangered galactic stability. I am authorized to use lethal force. Then use it, Hale said coldly. But know that everyone is watching now. Every ship, every station, every world. You wanted this buried. I just made sure it would live forever. You want to kill us? Go ahead. Make us martyrs. Make this story even bigger. Or you can stand down and explain to the galaxy why you tried to murder 43 scientists for doing their jobs. You don't understand what you've done. The technology they discovered could help everyone, could advance civilization, could break down barriers between species. Hale leaned forward. Or it could threaten the power structure you've built over thousands of years. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You're not protecting the galaxy. You're protecting your own authority. All vessels, weapons hot, Kelthanus ordered, his voice ice. Prepare to. Arbiter. One of his subordinates interrupted. Sir, we're receiving hails from over a dozen vessels. Independent traders, colony ships, even a Nexarian diplomatic cruiser. They're moving to intercept. They're positioning themselves between us and the human ship. Hale felt her heart skip. On the tactical display, new icons were appearing. Not military vessels. Cargo haulers. Science ships. Even a few pleasure cruisers. Ships that had been passing through nearby systems, that had received the broadcast and made a choice. This is Captain Drevix of the independent freighter Stellar Fortune. A gravelly voice came through the comm. Arbiter Kelthanus, I've just seen what you people tried to do. I'm not military, but I've got a hold full of mining equipment and a real problem with bullies. You want to get to that human ship, you're going through me first. Nexarian diplomatic vessel Silver Accord adding our voice. Another transmission followed. The Nexarian Assembly demands an immediate investigation into these allegations. Arbiter, we are prepared to observe and record any hostile action you take. More voices joined. More ships arrived. Within 10 minutes, a ragtag fleet of over 20 vessels had positioned themselves around the horizon breaker, not to fight, but to witness. To make clear that any violence would be seen, recorded, and remembered. Kelthanus's face had gone rigid. This is a council military operation. You are all interfering with We're exercising our right to be present in neutral space, Captain Drevix interrupted. Last I checked, the void reaches don't belong to the Council. Neither does the truth. Hale watched the tactical display with growing amazement. They came, she whispered. Complete strangers. They saw what was happening and they came. That's the power of truth, Captain, Varric said softly. Once people know, they have to choose what side they're on. Arbiter Kelthanus, this is Council Ship Meridian's Justice. A new voice cut through the chaos. We are part of your fleet, but we are officially registering a protest against this operation. Our crew has reviewed the broadcast data. If these allegations are true, we cannot in good conscience participate in a cover-up. Then another Council ship. Then two more. Hale watched in real time as Kelthanus's fleet began to fracture. Not all of them. 3 ships remained in formation, their commanders either true believers or too committed to back down. But the others drifted backward, unwilling to fire on civilians and witnesses. You've destroyed everything, Kelthanus said, his voice hollow. The careful balance, the protocols that have kept the galaxy stable. You've thrown it all into chaos. No, Hale replied. You did that when you tried to bury the truth. We're just making sure everyone knows what you did. The galaxy can decide for itself what happens next. Arbiter, one of his remaining officers said urgently. We're detecting quantum signatures. Someone's arriving in system. Multiple vessels. Sir, they're broadcasting Council Authority codes. It's the Oversight Committee. Hale saw Kelthanus's face go pale, an impressive feat for a species with naturally blue skin. This is Counselor Veronix of the Galactic Oversight Committee, a new voice announced, carrying the weight of true authority. All vessels are to stand down immediately. Arbiter Kelthanus, you are hereby relieved of command pending investigation. We are dispatching an independent inquiry team to interview all survivors and examine all evidence. The 3 ships still loyal to Kelthanus wavered. One by one their weapons powered down. Captain Hale, Counselor Veronix continued, you have created a significant diplomatic incident. You have also potentially saved the lives of 27 beings and exposed corruption at the highest levels of our government. The Council owes you an explanation and possibly an apology. We request you remain in position until our investigation team arrives. Hale let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. We'll be here, Counselor. As the tension drained from the bridge, her crew erupted in ragged cheers. Okoye clapped her on the shoulder. Chin was crying openly. Even Kowalski managed a rare smile. Varric approached Hale, her expression complex. You gambled everything. You could have died. Your whole crew. Why? Because it was the right thing to do, Hale said simply. That's reason enough. Your species is insane, Varric said. But she was smiling. Thank whatever cosmic force guides the universe that you're the good kind of insane. Hale laughed, feeling the adrenaline finally beginning to fade. We prefer to think of it as creatively principled. But yeah, we're definitely insane. As the various ships began to organize themselves, waiting for the Oversight Committee to arrive, Hale looked out at the gathered fleet. Dozens of vessels from dozens of worlds, all different, all here because someone had needed help. Maybe humanity hadn't just saved the Luminous Dawn's crew. Maybe they had reminded the galaxy of something it had forgotten, that the right thing to do was worth any risk, any cost. And that some truths were too important to stay buried in the dark. Dawn breaking. The investigation took 6 days. The Horizon Breaker remained in the void reaches, now surrounded by an entire flotilla of Council ships, independent observers and news vessels from across the galaxy. What had started as a cover-up attempt had transformed into the most public inquiry in recent galactic history. Commander Varric stood before the Oversight Committee's tribunal, her voice steady as she recounted every detail. The discovery of precursor energy signatures. The immediate report to the Research Directorate. The 8-hour silence before Officer Rethnak began his sabotage. The slow, agonizing wait for death that followed. They left us with just enough life support to die slowly, she testified. Far enough into the void reaches that no random patrols would ever find us. They wanted it to look natural, an unfortunate accident in a dangerous region of space. Counselor Veronix, a elder Kelrathi with scales that shimmered silver with age, listened with an expression of barely contained fury. Beside him sat representatives from a dozen council species, their faces reflecting everything from shock to shame. And the human vessel? Veronix asked. They were not on any authorized patrol route near your location. No, Counselor, Varric confirmed. Captain Hale made the decision to investigate on her own initiative. She chose to help us despite not being obligated to do so. Despite knowing it would make her late for her scheduled check-in. She simply decided that potential lives were more important than following protocol. Veronix turned to where Captain Hale sat in the witness section. Captain, you were aware this decision could result in disciplinary action? Yes, Counselor, Hale replied steadily. I was aware. And yet you proceeded anyway. Yes, sir. Why? Hale considered the question carefully. Around her, representatives from across the galaxy waited for her answer. News feeds carried her image to billions of viewers. Because I'm human, she said finally. And humans have a very hard time walking away from people in trouble. We tried isolationism once, tried looking the other way while others suffered. It never sat right with us. Eventually, we learned that you can't build a better world by ignoring the problems right in front of you. She stood, her voice gaining strength. We also learned something else, Counselor. We learned that the powerful will always find reasons why injustice is necessary, why some people have to be sacrificed for the greater good. But we learned to look closely at whose greater good we're talking about. Usually, it's the good of the people already in power. Arbiter Kelthinus, sitting in restraints in the defendant's section, finally spoke. You understand nothing. The precursor technology represents a potential threat beyond your comprehension. It must be controlled, studied carefully before release. Reckless species like yours could destroy the galaxy with such power. Reckless, Hale repeated. Because we helped dying people? Because we insisted on transparency? Arbiter, the only threat here is the belief that some beings get to decide what everyone else is allowed to know. The Council has maintained stability for 3,000 years. Kelthinus shot back. We have prevented wars, guided species through technological evolution, protected civilization from countless dangers. You've been part of this community for 7 years and you think you understand better than those who have spent millennia perfecting these systems. No, Hale said quietly. I don't think we understand better. But I think we understand differently. And maybe that's what you need. Veronix raised a hand for silence. We have reviewed all evidence. We have interviewed all parties. The facts are clear. He looked directly at Kelthinus. Arbiter, you and several members of the Research Directorate conspired to suppress discovery of active precursor technology. When Commander Verix's team reported their findings, you arranged for their elimination. You violated the Charter of Scientific Discovery, the Protocols of Sapient Rights, and at least 47 other Council regulations. I was protecting the galaxy, Kelthinus insisted. The technology they found could enable instant communication across any distance. Do you not see what that means? The power structures that have maintained peace for millennia would collapse overnight. Every minor dispute could escalate into galaxy-wide conflict in moments. Every piece of dangerous information could spread instantaneously. We needed time to prepare, to study the implications. You needed time to maintain your control, Veronix interrupted. Time to ensure this technology, if ever revealed, would be in the hands of those you deemed worthy. You made the decision that an entire crew of scientists should die rather than risk your carefully maintained order being disrupted. The counselor stood, his ancient frame somehow imposing despite its age. Arbiter Kelthinus, you are hereby stripped of rank and authority. You will stand trial for conspiracy to commit murder, suppression of scientific discovery, and abuse of council authority. The Oversight Committee will conduct a full investigation into the Research Directorate to determine how deeply this corruption has spread. He turned to the rest of the tribunal. Furthermore, the Council hereby declares that all information regarding the precursor discovery is to be released publicly. The technology, when understood, will be shared freely among all Council species. No one species, no one organization will control it. Kelthinus slumped in his restraints, defeated. Veronix's gaze moved to Hale. Captain Hale. Your actions prevented a terrible injustice but also created significant complications for Council operations. However, after careful deliberation, this committee has decided that no disciplinary action will be taken. Instead, we wish to propose something different. Hale tensed. Counselor? The events of the past week have revealed a troubling truth. The Council has grown bureaucratic, insular, too comfortable in its power. We have forgotten that our purpose is to serve all sapient beings, not to control them. Veronix's expression softened. Your species, Captain, for all its youth and inexperience, has reminded us of something we had lost. You have reminded us that compassion is not weakness. That transparency is not chaos. That some principles are worth any risk to uphold. He gestured broadly. Therefore, the Council proposes the creation of a new position, Keeper of Truth. A position outside normal hierarchy, answerable only to the Oversight Committee, tasked with investigating potential abuses of power and ensuring transparency in council operations. We would like humanity to hold this position at least initially. And we would like to offer the first appointment to you, Captain. The gallery erupted in surprised murmurs. Hale stood frozen, genuinely stunned. Counselor, I don't know what to say. Say yes, Veronix replied with a slight smile. Say that humanity will help keep the rest of us honest. Say that you will continue to be that uncomfortable voice that asks difficult questions and refuses to look away from hard truths. Hale looked back at her crew. Okoye gave her a tiny nod. Chen was grinning. Even Verix, watching from the survivor section, gestured encouragement. I'll need to discuss this with my superiors, Hale said carefully. But personally? Counselor, I would be honored. Excellent. This committee is adjourned. 6 months later, the luminous Dawn hung in orbit around Kelithra Prime, fully restored and upgraded. Her hull gleamed with fresh paint, her engines hummed with new power. But more importantly, she now bore a new designation beneath her name. Joint Research Vessel Humanity/Kalith Cooperative. Commander Verix stood on the bridge, no longer alone. Beside her, Lieutenant Chin reviewed sensor readings while Kowalski argued with a Kalith engineer about proper energy flow distribution. The crew was now half human, half Kalith, with a few representatives from other species who had volunteered for what was being called the most important scientific mission in modern history. They were returning to the void reaches. Returning to the precursor installation. But this time they went with full support, complete transparency, and the backing of a dozen species eager to learn. Captain Hale walked onto the bridge in her new uniform, still bearing the insignia of Earth's naval service, but now also carrying the seal of the Keeper of Truth. The position had proven more challenging than expected, filled with political minefields and resistance from entrenched bureaucrats. But slowly, steadily she was making a difference. Commander, Hale greeted Verix with a smile. Ready for departure? More than ready, Keeper Hale. Verix's use of the new title was slightly teasing. Though I admit, having you aboard for the first week of the mission feels like having an overprotective parent watching. Hey, I've got to make sure you're safe, Hale protested. Can't have anyone else trying to blow you up. I think we've sufficiently traumatized the Council's corrupt elements, Verix replied. 3 ministers forced to resign, 47 officials under investigation, complete restructuring of the research directorate. If anyone's planning to sabotage us now, they're being very quiet about it. Good. Hale looked around the bridge at the mix of species working together, at the hope and excitement visible in every face. You know what the best part of all this is? What? 6 months ago, Council species barely talked to each other outside official channels. Now look, joint crews, shared research, open communication networks. That precursor communication technology you discovered? A dozen species are working on it together, sharing data in real time. You didn't just find ancient tech, Verix. You started something bigger. Verix gazed out at the stars. We started it together. You could have left us to die. The Council could have kept its secrets. But instead, everyone made different choices. Better choices. That's the thing about choices, Hale said softly. They're contagious. When someone sees another person do the right thing, it makes it easier for them to do the right thing too. We're all just making each other braver. The luminous Dawn's engines flared to life. Below them, Kelithra Prime cities glittered in the sun. Above them, the stars waited with infinite patience. All stations report ready, Chin called out. We're cleared for departure. Take us out, Verix ordered. Let's go find some answers. As the ship accelerated away from the planet, heading back toward the void reaches that had almost been her grave, Verix felt no fear. She felt anticipation. She felt hope. She felt like this was exactly where she was supposed to be. Behind them, across the galaxy, change rippled outward. New alliances formed. Old grudges softened. Species that had barely acknowledged each other began working together on challenges they had once faced alone. The humans had brought something precious to the Galactic Council. Not superior technology or ancient wisdom, but a simple, radical idea. That every life mattered. That truth should not be buried for convenience. That the powerful should be held accountable. That sometimes the hardest choices were the most important ones. And that no one, absolutely no one, should be left behind in the dark. 3 years later, the precursor installation was fully explored. The technology within revolutionized galactic communication, exactly as predicted. But more importantly, the collaborative research effort became a model for future cooperation. The luminous dawn continued her work, discovering 17 more precursor sites. Each discovery was immediately shared with all council species. No more secrets, no more suppression. Captain Rowan Hale served as Keeper of Truth for 5 years before retiring, having established a permanent office with rotating representatives from multiple species. She returned to Earth a hero but always insisted she had simply done what anyone should have done. Commander Varix became director of the new Cooperative Research Initiative, working to ensure that no scientist would ever again be silenced for discovering inconvenient truths. And in classrooms across the galaxy, in dozens of languages, young beings learned the story of the ship that died in the darkness and the humans who refused to let it stay that way. The story of the day someone remembered that compassion was strength. That truth was worth fighting for. And that humanity, for all its chaos and recklessness, had given the galaxy something it desperately needed: the courage to be better.